Special envoy visits the region to push for extending Yemen's truce. Government adopts new measures to deal with the Houthis as a terrorist group. Houthis continue to abuse the education system in Yemen. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Rushan Fouad. The United Nations accused the Houthi militia of committing war crimes in Yemen since the end of the truce. The United Nations High Commissioner said that the Houthi militia had committed war crimes since the end of the peace agreement last month. Referring to sniper attacks and bombings since then, the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner said that it has verified 3 incidents of bombing in government-controlled areas. In a statement issued by the U.S. State Department, the U.S. has attributed the longest period of peace in Yemen since the civil war began in order to strengthen diplomatic cooperation with regional partners, especially Saudi Arabia. The following report gives more details.
The U.S. attributes the longest period of peace in Yemen since the civil war began in late 2014 to strong diplomatic cooperation with regional partners, especially Saudi Arabia. After being extended twice for 2-month intervals, a UN-brokered national ceasefire that went into force on April 2nd brought about 6 months of relative peace. However, Yemen's warring parties were unable to reach an agreement on an extension beyond October 2nd. Yemen has had the longest period of relative calm since the war began over 8 years ago, the U.S. State Department said in a statement. It said this was the result of strong diplomatic efforts between the United States and our partners, including Saudi Arabia. The U.S. statement came as Tim Lunderking, Washington's special envoy for Yemen, traveled to Saudi Arabia and the UAE this week to help efforts to restore and expand the UN-mediated truce in Yemen. We remind the Houthis that the world is watching their actions and urge them to cooperate with the UN and listen to Yemeni appeals for peace, the State Department said. Shortly after the truce expired, the rebels threatened a return to armed activities. According to Yemen's government, combat on the front lines has reignited. The only path forward to ending 8 years of destructive war is through a durable ceasefire and political settlement that allows Yemenis to determine the future of their country, the department said. The United States and Europe have pushed Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels to extend the ceasefire. The UN envoy to Yemen, Hans Grunberg, warned that the truce's expiration will worsen the country's condition. Grunberg expressed optimism about the truce's restoration and urged both the rebels and the government to participate in negotiations. According to the UN, the war has caused the world's worst humanitarian crisis. Aid agencies estimate that 23.4 million people, more than 70% of the population, require humanitarian aid, with 12.1 million in critical need.
My name's Calvin Rice and I'm Halo's Director of Programs. I'm currently visiting the city of Taiz in Yemen, and I'm here just behind one of the front lines which is separating southern forces from the Houthis. The front line is literally about 250 meters from me on that hill. I've come to this area just to see how people are being affected by the conflict that's happened here over the last many years. And very sadly, what we're seeing is a place which has been very heavily damaged, but we're fighting.
The Bulgarian government has strongly condemned the Houthi militia's attack on a Dabba port, describing it as a flagrant violation of the law of the Red Sea. The Bulgarian Foreign Ministry called for stopping the escalation and concluding a new truce agreement so that there are no Yemenis deprived of basic necessities. The Yemeni cabinet has implemented executive procedures for the reconstruction of ministerial plans in order to satisfy the demands of the phase and its political, military, security, economic, and humanitarian rights. The following report has more details.
The Yemeni cabinet has implemented a number of executive processes and programs for reconstructing ministerial plans in response to the decision to designate the Houthi coup militia as a terrorist organization. The new executive processes and programs, according to the official Sabah news agency, include reconstructing ministerial plans to satisfy the demands of the phase and its political, military, security, economic, and humanitarian rights. Furthermore, the adopted set of measures will take recent developments, the reforms track execution, and the level of services given to people into account. The cabinet also approved the development of a plan using established procedures to make sure that the classification of the Houthi militia as a terrorist organization has no negative effect on trade, the national private sector, or the uninterrupted flow of goods and food. This will be done in a way that protects the lives of civilians in Houthi-controlled regions. Yemeni Prime Minister Ma'in Abdul Malik has instructed that the ministerial proposals be implemented as soon as possible. He advised focusing on rebuilding the state and putting a stop to the Houthi coup, which was backed by Iran. He also updated the cabinet on the outcomes of his meeting with the EU mission and ambassadors from a number of EU nations accredited to Yemen. Abdul Malik emphasized the international community's clear view of the Houthi militant stubbornness and rejection of all efforts to extend the humanitarian truce and find a political settlement. The ongoing Houthi threats to national economic facilities and civilian infrastructure in Yemen and neighboring countries will be dealt with firmly to protect the capabilities of the Yemeni people, international navigation, and global energy stability. Abdul Malik reinforced appeals for the international communities to intervene in Yemen's domestic affairs to avoid Iranian meddling. The Prime Minister also demanded that Tehran comply with the UN agreements forbidding assistance for terrorist groups in Yemen.
The Houthis has begun their persistent efforts to change the school curriculum for 6 years, when a committee was formed to alter the curriculum to follow up on changing the syllabus in private and governmental schools. This report gives more details.
Since 2015, the Houthis began their relentless efforts to change the school curricula. Such a sensitive case was supposed to remain away from the conflict, as it is associated to the young generation. The areas ruled by the Houthis have a high population density, and Sana'a is the largest among them all. It has a population block of sectarian, regional, and political spectra. Besides, it's not only areas that are limited to a particular sect or ideology. And this means that the Houthi group compel people to change their religious, intellectual, and political beliefs by force. And there is no choice but to accept reality. 6 years ago, a committee was formed to review the curricula with the representatives of the minister to follow up on changing the curricula in private and governmental schools. The Houthis first started to change the curricula of history to underestimate the Yemeni's pride of their well-known historical ancient civilization and glorify their imam's reign. At the beginning, the changes were minor, but in the school year of 2021 and 2022, they issued a modified curriculum for Islamic studies, the Quran, and social studies for the primary stages. This curricula introduced new lessons and modified or deleted original lessons that included civil rights, the role of women in society, and the history of influential figures who shaped the history of Yemen. It's a war on everything and planting the seeds of their ideology into children's minds that grew up in the shadow of war and will take a long time to alter.
The General Secretary of the Arab League expressed concern over the cholera outbreak in Yemen. He appealed to the international community to act immediately to provide urgent health services in order to support Yemen's health sector and to strengthen their ability to confront this dangerous disease. The technical teams have completed the project of maintenance of traffic safety on the right-hand sea. In order the temporary capital of Aden, the project is funded by the Roads and Bridges Maintenance Fund, and it was supervised by the Ministry of Public Works and Roads and the local authority in Aden. The project manager confirmed the completion of the work of the road linking the districts of Aden. 90% of Al Anad Bridge Protection Project has been completed to protect it from flood damage in Lash Governorate. The chairman of the board of directors was briefed on the level of implementation of the ongoing works in the project, which has reached a completion rate of 90%. The consultant engineer gave an explanation of the ongoing work in the maintenance of the bridge, which is being implemented by the Public Roads Corporation. Coming next. Haifa Subayan Shazaltoui, Yemeni artist, awarded prestigious European prize.
Yemen, the worst famine the world has seen in 100 years. Right now, over 8 million people are facing starvation. Since the beginning of the war, 85,000 children have died due to the lack of food. We cannot allow this to continue. The Yemeni people can't wait.
Welcome back. Two young female artists from Yemen succeeded in arousing the world's interest and sympathy with a tragedy that has been going on for 8 years. This report has more on Haifa and Shada's story.
In light of the severity of the war and its painful effects on Yemenis, two Yemeni women have succeeded in winning international awards for their excellence in fine arts, as an expression of their success in transferring the pain of Yemeni women to the international arena. The fine artist Haifa Subaya won the Cedar Award for the year 2022 from the Prince Claus Foundation of Netherlands, in an appreciation of her artistic activities in support of women and children issues during the war period. And Shazal Toy won the Scottish Woman Award for shedding light on some Yemeni issues such as the displaced, women, and coexistence through her awareness-raising activities and her work. But the real prize for them is that the issues they discuss to be considered by the decision makers to end the war in Yemen and address the catastrophic situation that Yemenis are experiencing. The war in Yemen has dire consequences for everyone. Women and children are the most affected, and these artists are suffering like any other women in Yemen. So they have devoted art to play its role in these difficult circumstances to convey the present reality in a way that shows the true tragedy. They stress that their drawing message seeks peace, as Yemeni people deserve a decent life and a state that preserves the dignity of the citizens. The countless tragedies that the war produced were enough to destroy everything, and everyone is tired of war, so it's time for Yemenis to have some respite through these promising artists who convey a message of peace to the whole world.
Deputy Minister of Planning and International Cooperation discussed with the director of the donor network of the SUN movement the lack of food security. During the meeting, they discussed the importance of supporting the financing plan to raise the level of nutrition, which has been prepared at the technical level to include all Yemenis. The minister stressed the need to find an organizer for coordinator for donors, due to the importance of this in mobilizing resources. The Undersecretary of Ma'rib Governorate discussed with the representative of World Food Programme expanding the humanitarian program's interventions. During the meeting, the agent valued the great role played by the World Food Programme through its office in Ma'rib in assisting the local authority by covering part of the food needs of the displaced people. The Undersecretary stressed the need to diversify the humanitarian interventions of the World Food Programme in Ma'rib in order to include livelihood programs. Citizens of Ma'rib Governorate face difficulty when receiving money transfers in hard currency. This report gives more details.
Thousands of Yemeni families depend on remnants, illegal practices and methods followed by exchange shops in Ma'rib Governorate with the aim of obtaining double profits adds more burdens to the citizens suffering from the differences in remnants between Aden and Sana'a, which amounted to 110%.
When anyone goes to exchange stores to receive the money someone has transferred to them, they take 14% commission on every 1,000 riyals.
We met a citizen after he obtained an amount transferred from his brother, which was 700 Saudi riyals, and after completing the transaction to obtain it, he was unable to take his money transfer in the Saudi amount, and he was forced to take it with the local currency exchange.
Somebody transferred 700 riyals to me from Saudi Arabia, but I didn't receive it because the exchange store wanted to take a commission.
citizens in Ma'rib Governorate are subjected to pressure to obtain their remnants, the effects of which are reflected on the national economy and on a large segment of society. The concerned authorities are completely aware of what citizens are exposed to due to illegal practices by money exchange shops, yet oversight is still absent.
Defense Minister held an extensive meeting with a number of directors of departments in the temporary capital, Aden. In his guiding speech to the leaders of the armed forces, he stressed raising the combat readiness against the Houthi militia attacks. The Minister of Defense noted the importance of military training because of its crucial role in achieving victories and reducing losses on the battlefield. A European study revealed that the Houthis stand against the traditional commercial companies to take over the commercial field. The study said that the Houthi policies have created an atmosphere for corruption amid a decline in commercial growth indicators. They added that the new Houthi trade do not pay taxes and their activity grows at the expense of the owners of companies. A technical team from the World Health Organization completed a week of evaluation for medical supplies in the temporary capital, Aden. The Undersecretary of the Ministry of Health stressed the importance of this evaluation in raising the efficiency of the authority and its workers. He also praised the strong partnership between the Ministry of Health and its various sectors and the World Health Organization. The conflict in Yemen has made it very difficult for women and girls to access medical services. The following report gives more details.
The healthcare system in Yemen has been severely weakened. About half of the health facilities in the country are out of service, while many of the functioning centers have very limited capacities. 8 years into Yemen's armed conflict, violence, economic hardship, and deteriorating health services and infrastructure are increasingly preventing women and girls from receiving essential health care. According to UNICEF, less than half of all births in Yemen today are attended by skilled health professionals. Also, reports show that 1 mother and 6 newborns die every 2 hours in Yemen due to pregnancy complications and causes that are almost entirely preventable owing to limited or no access to healthcare services. In addition, about 73% of estimated 4.2 million people displaced in Yemen since the conflict began are women and children. Displaced women and girls face additional economic and social vulnerability, resulting in limited access to basic services, including adequate health care for chronic disease treatment. Currently, more than 20.1 million people out of a total population of 30.5 million lack access to basic health care. Only 51% of the country's healthcare facilities are still operational. Violence complicates patients' ability to access life-saving health care. Pregnant women, newborns, and children, who are among Yemen's most vulnerable citizens, are increasingly arriving in medical facilities too late. Women who have lost their husbands as a result of years of conflict have become hesitant to travel to seek health care, particularly if they live in rural areas, for fear of being attacked or harassed on their way.
Headlines. U.S. Pasha envoy visits the region to push for extending Yemen's truce. Government adopts new measures to deal with the Houthis as a terrorist group. Houthis continue to abuse the education system in Yemen. This is the end of the news. It was Roshan Fouet. Thank you for watching.